We're talking today with Jamie Croft of Williston, Florida. The interviewer is Elaine Snyder, Director of the Historical Society and Museum of Byron Center, Michigan. We are partnering with the Grand Valley State University, assisting with the veterans interviews for their Veterans History Project. Jamie, could you tell me where you were born and the year?
I was born in Gainesville, Florida, November 29th, 1977.
And where did you go to high school? Grade school, high school?
Williston, graduated Williston High School in 1996.
Okay, did you go to college or was there any band or sports or anything you participated in?
I did play in the band. I played a lot of sports, football, baseball, basketball, tennis, golf, ran track. I did a lot of sports.
What year did you decide to join the service?
Towards the end of my senior year in high school, I
And
decided to go in.
what made you join the Navy? What was your thing?
I actually wanted to join the Air Force first, and I spoke to a recruiter at the Air Force office and explained to him what I wanted to do, and he basically told me that they were going to try to put me where the Air Force needed me the most, not really what I wanted to do. I didn't really like that answer, so I went next door to the Navy recruiting office and told them what I wanted to do, and they told me no problem, come on in, and ended up not being what I wanted to do, but that's how I ended up in the Navy anyway.
Where did you go for your basic training then?
Great Lakes, Illinois. Basic training there.
What kind of training did you do? What's your basic training?
A lot of physical stuff, push-ups, sit-ups, a little bit of running, a lot of mental stuff, naval history, military history type stuff, and then just basic shipboard training.
How long was your basic training?
That one, I don't really remember, to be honest with you, like 7 to 8 weeks maybe.
Okay. What kind of housing did you have at that time?
It was open barracks with bunk beds. I don't even remember how many we had in there. It must have been a good 60, 70 of us.
And where did you go after your training?
Actually, I stayed in Great Lakes and went through some more basic shipboard training. I did basic electronics classes there, and a couple of my C schools, what they called them, schools that were more pertaining to a specific piece of equipment. I did a few of those there before I actually chose orders.
Did you live on base at that time?
Shortly after boot camp I did, until I was able to move my family up. I was already married at the time. Once I moved them up, I was able to move off base and live with them. They called us brown baggers. We were the ones that were married that got to live with our families, while the single people had to stay in the barracks on base. I did have to come back for duty days, though. I had to spend the night one night out of however many duty sections we had.
So when were you assigned to a ship?
I got to choose orders based on, orders were chosen based on grades that you made in class. The highest grade got to choose first, second, so on and so forth. I got to choose second out of my class. They had all the orders in front of us, and we got to decide which ship we wanted to go to and where it was stationed.
So and where was that? Was that in Norfolk?
That was in Great Lakes,
Oh,
Illinois.
in Great Lakes you did that. Okay.
That was where I left to go directly to the ship from Great Lakes after my training.
Oh, okay. And where was your ship docked?
Norfolk, Virginia. I tried to get Florida. That's where I really wanted to go, but there were no billets available for Florida at all. So my next choice that was closest was Norfolk, Virginia.
And what was the ship that you chose?
The USS Cole, guided missile destroyer, DDG-67.
Can you describe the ship when you saw it for the first time?
When I actually saw it, I kind of knew what it looked like, but when you actually see it in person for the first time, it's a little bit overwhelming, and you're in a little awe, I guess, at first from it, knowing that's where you're going to be sleeping and working for 6 months at a time.
What was your sleeping conditions and when you ate and different things like that? What kind of a day did you usually have? What was your normal day?
We usually had quarters, I believe, in the morning at 7 is where we would get together and meet to see what our duties or tasks were going to be for the day. And then after that, you pretty much knew what you had to do. We had a lot of preventative maintenance to do all the time on everything from cleaning filters to tearing stuff down and cleaning it and putting it back together. Once your stuff for the day was done, you were pretty much done for the day. You still had duty and still had responsibilities, but you could work out or read, watch movies, whatever.
So did you always have a lot of work there to keep you busy all the time?
Always.
Always.
And they actually called things busy work if you didn't have enough to do. Clean it again.
How about seasick? A lot of people get seasick on a ship. Did you?
There was There was a number that got seasick, not too many. They really tried to push Dramamine before we left, even if they said if you don't think you get seasick, take it anyway. I never got seasick, fortunately.
So can you describe your ship? What kind of a ship was it, and what kind of, well, I know that it had guided missiles and things like that. What can you tell me about the ship?
Yeah, it was a guided missile destroyer. We carried torpedoes, surface-to-air missiles, surface-to-surface missiles, lots of guns on board, close-in weapon systems, which is like a big machine gun that could take out incoming aircraft or incoming ordnance. That's about it. I mean, lots of weapons. We were the weapon guy.
The tracking, was that the radar that allowed a destroyer to track over 100 targets simultaneously?
Yeah, we had several radars. I mean, there were several radars that we had.
And a lot of guns were mounted on deck?
Well, we had some that could be removed and put up for temporary use, you know, like 50 cals and such. We had other ones that were fixed to the ship, the big 5-inch gun on the front, which is, that's what they're famous for, the big 5-inch gun. A little 25 millimeter cannon on the side too. I mean, we had certain ones that were stationed there permanently, but we also had ones we could remove.
Now, how about missiles? How many do they usually carry?
We could carry 90 missiles, not including the torpedoes and such, you know, things such as that.
Did you ever see any action on the boat? Was there anything that happened while you were on the boat, or was it pretty calm?
We never had to like fire missiles on anyone. We did missile training where we actually fired missiles, but not like, you know, at a target to take somebody out, basically.
What kind of ports did you visit, and kind of what areas did you go in?
Been to the Caribbean a few times, several ports down there. Lots of ports in Europe. Spain was one of my favorites. I went there a couple times. France, the Middle East, lots of ports in the Middle East. That was about it.
Did you get much shore leave?
It depends on when we were there, like how long we were going to be there, and you still had duty while you were in port, so there was guaranteed 1 or 2 days you weren't going to get to go out, but depending on how long we were there, for the most part, we would, and depending on where we were, some places we weren't allowed to leave the compound. Other places we were allowed to go out and pretty much do whatever. Not really spend the night anywhere. We always had a curfew that we had to be back, you know, by.
Can you describe the attitude of your experience from the locals? Did you ever get a chance to talk to them, or?
A few, not too much, honestly. A lot of bartenders. That was about it. We didn't really strike up conversation with the locals too much, unless they were shop owners or we were eating somewhere or something to that effect. But for the most part, I don't remember there being any hostility ever where we were.
You didn't get to go on shore at Yemen at all?
No.
So what was your purpose for going to Yemen?
We pulled in there basically from what I was told, I know it was for refueling, but it was to help boost their economy, to try to get fuel from them to help try to boost their economy.
And the day of the bombing, was it a peaceful day? Did you suspect anything? Anybody suspect anything?
Well, when it happened, everybody that I know of that was inside the skin of the ship suspected it was the fuel exploding or something. Something had happened to that effect. But I was actually asleep when it happened. I was on watch the night before. I had gone to bed at 7 that morning, and it happened like 4.5 hours later is when the bombing happened. So it definitely woke me up. But from what I was told, the people that were topside, it was just like every other normal. I mean, the boat that actually had the explosives looked like all the other boats that were around us that were actually helping with the trash barge and the mooring of the lines and things of that nature. So it wasn't uncommon for there to be small boats around us anyway, and it looked just like it. So.
I read that they had to have special orders in order to be able to come close to the ship. Is that when they pick up the trash and everything? Did they have to have special orders too?
Yeah, they don't just let a guy and his family come up in a fishing boat alongside us. I mean, we knew who was supposed to be out there. We knew there were boats for the trash barges. We knew there were boats for the mooring lines.
So they never suspected anything when that other one come up. Interesting. So what was your assigned duty at the time of the bombing? You said you was sleeping because you had been up all night.
Yeah, I obviously woke up immediately, and there were no alarms going off, which was very odd. That normally doesn't happen. It was dark and it was quiet because I was in berthing. There was really hardly anybody else down there. I came out, and there was smoke everywhere. There was a lot of people down. And then I pretty much knew since I was in interior communications, I knew that the alarm systems were, and since there were no alarms going off, I knew something was definitely wrong. So I basically just had to start going into my spaces and start checking my equipment out to find out why we didn't have communications. And
So where was the bomb when it hit? Did it do any damage to anything other than the place where you
Galley.
ate, the galley?
It did. It flooded I believe it was the #1 engine room, got flooded. It hit the galley area, the mess decks area, the chief's mess. That was on the port side about halfway. That's about where it hit, which was also one of our main cableways, and that's why we didn't have any communications. It severed some main lines that we had that did not have redundancy. And it was just trying to get stuff repaired so we get communications. That was, and try to save lives that were still, people that were still alive, basically.
So I see that the hole was like 40 by 60. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's about right. The best that I know.
So what was it like right after the bomb went off? Was there a lot of chaos, I suppose?
There was chaos, but for the most part, people knew what they had to do. You train out there all the time. That's all we ever did was training, to the point to where it got very annoying. But when it hits the fan, it pays off. That's one thing that we all said was the training we had that we hated so much is, it's second nature when when you have to use it.
Can you describe how bad the damage was? Well, I guess you kind of said what it was.
Yeah, we had to stand watches, because we had to seal off certain spaces that were already flooded. There is watertight integrity between the spaces. As the shaft goes all the way through the ship, we had to stand watches in other engine rooms, because the only thing that was holding back the wall of water was shaft seals. Those were starting to give way, so we had to wrap those with line and wedges and all kinds of stuff and stand watch on those to make sure they didn't break free, which would have sacrificed an entire another space.
Was there a chance of the ship sinking at all?
Yeah, when the shaft seal gave way, it actually started flooding that compartment. We had trouble getting power throughout the ship. A couple of our generators were down. One of it was intermittent. It would come and go. So it was hard for us to pump water out. So at one point, I know we remained in bucket brigades to try to keep the water down. That wasn't for an extended period of time, but we were pretty much doing what we had to do at the time.
So I know you said you had a lot of training, but how do you and the crew feel about the way the situation was handled? Was it handled adequately, do you think?
I really don't know a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, what was going on, but at the time we were there, I think we did the best job that we could have done, for what had been done to us, definitely.
I read also that the commander was denied rank of captain. How do you feel about that situation?
That every situation has to have a fall guy. That's the way I felt about it, and that they blamed him, which I honestly don't believe. From my knowledge base, there was nothing he could have done to prevent that. Anyone could have done to prevent it at all.
So you think it was kind of an injustice?
Yeah, absolutely.
He was a good guy?
Yeah.
Oh, good. When the ship was rescued, where did the crew go?
We actually stayed on board for about 3 weeks in the same spot where the bombing happened. They couldn't get the ship out. They had small boats that came back and forth that would transport anywhere from 10 to 20 of us to other ships that were anchored out offshore, and we were able to take hot showers and get a hot meal and spend the night in bed there, because we didn't have any AC inside the ship. It was ridiculously hot in there, so a lot of us, we pretty much slept on the flight deck in hammocks or on blankets, or they brought a lot of cots over and we slept out there. So we rotated.
And what happened to the ship? How was that transported or taken back to repair?
That was actually one of the reasons why we stayed there for 3 weeks, was because they had to try to figure out how they were going to get the ship out. I don't think it was as easy as just throwing a rope around and pulling it out. We had to figure out how they were going to get all the way back to the United States. So they employed that Blue Marlin that basically sinks itself, and they had to. It's designed, I believe, originally for cruise ships, but they didn't have any blocks that were designed to hold a guided missile destroyer, so they had to scramble and try to make blocks that would hold it, and that's what took extra time, plus getting that ship over there.
How did that ship get on that I see a picture of it, and it's just sitting right in the middle of this great big barge-looking ship. How did they get it on there?
Well, they basically have the big Blue Marlin, which they put it into position, and they basically sink it purposely, and it sinks down in the water this way. And then they maneuver our ship over the top of it just where it needs to be. They pump all the water out of the Blue Marlin, which raises
Were
both
you
of
ever
them up.
were you able to watch that?
I didn't get to see it. They had already taken us off the ship, but I mean, I saw all the photos and everything from it. I saw the ship, but before they maneuvered it on, they took us all off.
So then after the ship was rescued, then what happened to the crew?
We actually went to another ship where we stayed for a couple days, I think, maybe 24 hours or so. Showers, hot meals once again, and then they took all of us off in helicopters actually. So we all of us as a crew loaded up on 6 or 7 different helicopters, and one by one just took off and flew us over the desert to a location where we had gotten a hold of an airport, I believe, that was out there, and we waited there for another 10 to 15 hours or so, and we flew in a plane from there to Germany, and then from Germany back home.
When the ship was taken for repairs, what were your duties at that time?
Just to oversee all the contractors that were coming on board, and basically we were going to backfit the ship with all the latest and greatest technology that was out there because they had to do so much rebuilding anyway. So basically when that ship left Pascagoula, it would be the latest and greatest in the fleet. So it was pretty much see what we had at hand, figure out what we had to do, and meet with the contractors and work with them hand in hand every day.
Where did they
Long
take the
hours.
ship? I know it was in Mississippi. Did they have to go up the Mississippi River?
No, they actually Pascagoula, Mississippi, which is right on the Gulf Coast. That's where the ship was actually built. They do a lot of Bath Iron Works in Maine and Pascagoula is the 2 main places where the ships are built. This one was built in Pascagoula, so they brought it back there to the people that built it, and they basically built it back the way it needed to be.
And I read it took about 14 months. Is that right?
I don't know exactly how long it took. I actually transferred off the ship before it was completed. But I know it took it a while to get back here, even from where it was at. They couldn't bring it through the Suez Canal on the Blue Marlin, so they had to go all the way around the Horn of Africa, which takes a lot longer.
So since you transferred off the ship, then you weren't reassigned to the Cole after it was repaired.
Yeah.
What did you do after that?
I went to temporary station in Norfolk where I actually transported prisoners for a while from the brig. You know, if they needed stuff from the exchange or things of that nature, we would have to take them dental appointments, medical appointments, whatnot. I did that for a little while. Then I actually went to a place called Sema, which is where it's right there in the port where all the other ships are docked. They're kind of a liaison for getting stuff repaired on the ship, you know, like a parts place basically, and they can bring in guys from SEMA to help work on things that are more specialized for that. I worked security there until I got out, pretty much, and that was night shift duty, where I just kind of made sure that everything was secured. I have to get in a vehicle and drive around, make sure the barges were secured, just a security detail.
So you said prisoners. Is that prisoners of the naval?
Yeah, it was basic. Well, it wasn't like prisoners from, you know, that we had captured. It was people that had done stuff, you know, all types of crimes that were in the brig, basically.
And I also read that there was a $5 million reward leading to the arrest of the people that aided in the attack. What do you know about that?
I know that some people have been caught. I know they were escaped from Yemen a couple times. And I know we've got one guy in custody here, but with the administration that's here now, who knows what's going to happen with that.
So did you ever consider making the Navy a career?
After I got out, I had thought a little bit maybe about going back in. Talked to my wife about it, and she was like, no. She said I'd be going alone, so I didn't think about it again after that, pretty much. It's rough on a family.
What are your feelings today about the problems in Yemen, and when they mention the 10th anniversary of the Cole bombing? Do you have any kind of feelings of remorse, or are you interested in it? Or
I do keep up with it. I mean, I get stuff emailed to me all the time when the Cole comes through anywhere in the news. I get the article emailed to me. The 10th anniversary. It's just the 10th anniversary to me. I mean, honestly, I'm going to try to get back for the reunion that we have every year, which I've never been able to go to. So I may try to make the 10-year reunion for that.
Where's that usually? In Norfolk?
In Norfolk.
Oh, good. That should be a good experience. Is there anything else you want to add about being in your experiences in the Navy? Is there anything that you can think of?
I think it kind of helped me get the job that I have now when I got out. I don't know so much as, I don't know if it's necessarily because of the electronics background, or it's probably a combination of that plus the fact that I was in the military, plus the guy who hired me was prior military. I had several friends that already worked at the company. I kind of already knew I had that job before I got out of the service. I mean, I think the service is great, honestly. It will prepare people if they allow it to.
How long
for
were
the
you
outside
in?
world. I did a 6-year tour.
And why, did you sign up for 6 years, or?
Yeah, I did 6 because I was doing an advanced technical electronics field that since they're going to send you to so much school, they want to make sure that they don't send you to 2 years of school and then you only give them 2 years back of service and then you get out. They want to make that's why I had to sign for 6 years.
Did they choose that for you, or did you choose it yourself?
The interior communications or the 6 years?
When you went into the 6 years, what did you go in for, and did you get the job that you wanted?
Well, I wanted to do computers, which is why I left the Air Force office, and I spoke to the guy in the Navy office and explained to him what I wanted to do, and he was, oh yeah, sure, that's no problem, we'll definitely hook you up with that. And when I got to MEPS, which was in Jacksonville, that's where you actually choose what job you're going to have, and I explained to the guy what, and he was like, oh, you want to be an ICM in interior communications, you know, definitely. And closest I got to computers was like checking my email, honestly. I mean, I enjoy what I did, but it's not what I wanted to do, really. So,
Did you enjoy what you were doing, though?
I did. I mean, it was all right.
But it did help you for the future, too.
Right.
You grew up really fast in 6 years, didn't you?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think that your training and experience has made a difference in your life today? Is it more structured, or would you think you'd be any different if you didn't go into the service?
Sure. I mean, that's definitely a life-changing experience, whether you deal with action or not. I mean, just being on a ship for 6 months at sea with a bunch of people, you know, being away from your family, it's rough.
Did you get many furloughs?
Furloughs?
You didn't.
What's the furloughs? I don't even know what that is.
Well, when you time off from the ship to go back and see your family.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, if we weren't out at sea and we were in port, then we had a little bit more of a normal structured work day. You know, there were times where I didn't get home till 7, 8 o'clock at night. Several times. It just depends on what the task at hand is and when the deadline is. You know, and how critical it is to get that done.
When you finished with the experience with the Cole bombing, did that have any impact on your life at all? I mean, did it give you a different outlook on things, or did it
Yeah,
just?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, when you lose friends that are that close to you that were there 5 minutes ago or 20 minutes ago, it does make you kind of open your eyes, about a lot of things. For
Makes
sure.
you value life more, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where did you move after you were discharged?
I moved back home and took the job that, I went ahead and applied for the job that I kind of knew I was going to get. And I've been there ever since.
How long after you were home did you start working?
I think I had a week between the day I actually was discharged from the Navy till my first day on the job was almost exactly a week.
What kind of job was that?
I work, it was MRI devices at the time, and I started in production, and we basically manufacture, coils for MRI machines. I work in the engineering department now, basically designing and manufacturing prototype coils, the ones that aren't released out yet. We do the testing on them and things of that nature.
So you're still working for the same company?
Yeah, we've been bought out a couple times. When I first started there, we were really small. Then we were bought by another company, and then that company was bought, and then now we've been bought by Philips. So
how many years have you been there?
About 7, almost 7 years.
Do you have any chance for advancement in the company?
I actually have advanced rather well in the company, and I think on a perfect time schedule for me. I started in production. I worked there for a couple years, then I moved to repair. Worked there for about a year, maybe a little longer, and then I moved to the engineering department where I've been ever since.
And I know your background a little bit. When you did the repairing of the MRIs, did you ever have any experiences with that?
Yeah. I actually enjoyed working in repair. It was neat to get a coil back that didn't work and then try to figure out what was wrong with it and fix it and then scan it. We could use the magnets at the hospitals usually late at night because they were having to use them all day during the day. So when we would repair a coil and need to test it, we would have to go up there at like midnight to use the scanners. And sometimes we would do the old paper, rock, scissors to see who was going to actually get in the coil. Not because we were scared, just didn't want to lay in there. And I decided I was going to get in a head coil one night and actually ended up finding a brain tumor that was, it wasn't malignant, it was benign, but I mean, I never had any symptoms, anything like that, so I got that checked out, of course, the next day and found out that's what it was, and I don't know, it was probably 3 weeks later, a month later, that I had it removed, so, and that went smoothly, and out of work for 5 weeks, and then right back at it, so.
So what's in the future for your family now? Your wife and you have 2 girls. The girls are how old?
14 and 9. Taylor's 14 and Kaylee is 9.
And then your wife works in
Nicole,
Gainesville
yeah.
also. So, what kind of future are you looking at? Do you have any plans?
I don't really have any long-term goals as far as what I want to do. I'm really happy with the job I have now. I'm actually going back to school now to get a business degree. My ultimate goal is to get a master's from the University of Florida in business. I'm working on that right now. And I wouldn't mind staying with the company I'm at, maybe seeing if that degree could just maybe help me out there and get a management position.
And you're going to college on a GI loan? Or
Right.
GI? Good.
On the GI Bill, right.
Is there anything else you want to add to the interview that you might want to think would be of interest to people? Would you encourage young men to join the service, and what branch do you think they'd be best in?
I don't really know too much about the other branches. I guess the Navy is good if you like to be at sea. I mean, you do get to see the world, that's true. There's good and bad with everything, you know, so I wouldn't try to discourage someone from going in the Navy, put it that way.
Well, Jamie, you've done a really good job today, and we really appreciate your interview. And if there's nothing else you want to add to it, then we'll conclude at this time. Thank you.
All right.
That was awesome. You did great. Now I've got something you can hook on.